Welcome to the Warner Kitchen. Girls, what are we going to make today?
Bagels!
All right, those are my lovely assistants. So here's the deal. A lot of people have asked for this bagel recipe, and so I thought I would do it. And so the ingredients are going to be posted below, but basically what it is flour, sugar, salt, and yeast. And a lot of people are afraid of making yeast bread, but you don't need to be. It's real easy. So the first thing you do is we're going to put 3½ cups of flour in the bowl. It can be any kind of flour, not self-rising, but it can be either regular flour or bread flour. And then we're going to put some sugar in. And we have 2 tablespoons of sugar that are going to go in the bagels. So just put that right in the dough. And then we have a teaspoon of salt. And it can be a heaping teaspoon, but no more than that. There we go. And then yeast. And you know, in the store you can get active yeast, you can get quick rising yeast, and it comes in either jars or little packets. It doesn't matter what kind as long as it's dry. And we're going to put 2 teaspoons of yeast. And a lot of people say you need to put the yeast in the water first to let it bloom and all that, but forget that, just put it right in. It works just fine. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to stir this up. But I forgot my lovely assistants. Have to tell you what the first step is here. What's the first step?
Making the dough.
All right, good. That's what we're going to do. And so we're going to take the dry ingredients and we're just going to kind of mix them up so it's all kind of equally distributed in the dough. I got this fancy whisk, but you can use any kind of spoon for this. Then you take your water, and in the ingredients it calls for 1½ cups, and that's about 300 grams of water. So if you have a scale, it's much better to weigh things. It's 500 grams of flour, 300 grams of water. But it's 3½ cups of flour and 1½ cups of water. And we just pour that right in. And stir away. And so what we're going to try to do is get as much of the flour and the water combined as possible here as we stir before we pour it out and start kneading it. And so just keep stirring away and try to get as much of that loose flour as you can incorporated into the dough. And already you can see that most of it is. It looks like a shaggy mess, and that's what it's supposed to look like. And once you've gotten as much as possible with the spoon, you can take that and put the spoon aside. And just take your hand and get in there and turn the shaggy mess and try to get as much of that loose dough in there incorporated into, or that loose flour incorporated into the dough as possible. You don't have to have it all. And once it's, most of it is, you can just turn it out on the counter like that and just pull it together with your hands. And then we're going to start what they call kneading. And kneading is nothing more than just kind of manhandling the dough and pushing it down and turning it. But we're going to do this for about 5 minutes. And if it gets a little too sticky for you, you can sprinkle a little dough or a little flour on there, but not a lot. Just put a very little amount. So if it was getting too sticky, I might just do this. Just a little flour to make it not sticky. And we're going to do this for about 5 minutes. All right, we've been kneading this for about 5 minutes, and you can see it's turned from a shaggy mess into this kind of nice, elastic, smooth dough, and that's what it's supposed to look like. And when you're done, we want to just kind of turn it on the counter with your hands until you've got kind of a ball like this. And then we're going to take your bowl, and it's the same bowl you mixed your dough in. And you can either put a little oil in there or spray it, and I'm going to spray it so the dough doesn't stick while it's rising. And we're just going to drop the dough right in the bowl, and then put a little oil right on top of the dough ball itself. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a towel or a plate or a bag or something, and we're going to cover this and put it in a warm place for about 1 hour to 1 hour and 15 minutes. I often put it on top of the fridge, or you can even put it in an oven that's not turned on, and just turn the oven light on, and that'll warm it up a little bit. And we're going to come back in 1 hour to 1 hour and 15 minutes. Then we'll make our bagels. Welcome back to the Warner Kitchen. Got my towel with Peppy the donkey on it. That'll come in handy in just a minute. All right, look what's happened in the last 1 hour and 15 minutes. That little ball of dough has grown to be this bigger ball of dough. That's kind of the fun part of baking bread. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this out. Oh, by the way, girls, what's the next step in our process?
Forming the bagels.
Almost forgot about my lovely assistants. Okay, so I'm going to take this out. It's going to be real poofy and risen. And because it has oil, you don't have to put any flour on the counter. You can pick it up, and we just want to press it down a little bit. And now we're going to divide this one piece into 8 pieces. And this is a math problem. Got to have one of these. If you don't have one of these, you got to go buy one. They're a bench scraper, like 50 cents at Walmart or something. So if we have one piece of dough and we divide it in half, how many pieces do we have? We have 2 pieces. Now to get 4 pieces, we take each one of those and we divide it in half again. And don't worry about the exact size, make them about the same. So now we have 2 there, and we have 2 there. So now we have 8 pieces of dough, and we have 4, and we need 8. So we divide each of those by 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8.
There's our 8 pieces of dough for our bagels. Now, okay, we have 8 pieces of dough now, and they don't look much like bagels, but here's what we're going to do. And by the way, don't put any flour down there. We need some friction. You take the dough and you put your hand over it and press down and roll around like this. That's all you have to do. Just press down and roll around, put a little pressure on it, and look what it turns into. Magically a little ball of dough. We're going to do more to that in just a minute. So now I'm going to do that to each one of these. Okay, now I'm on my last ball. Get that going around here. And now we have 8 balls of dough. This one's a little smaller, but that's okay. They can be a little different size. Now, very simply, to make them into bagels, we take our index finger and we poke a hole right in the middle, all the way through, and then we just stretch it out a little bit. And it looks like, a donut shape, but that's what a bagel looks like. And make the hole a little bigger than you think, because when it rises, that hole will get smaller. And so we just put your finger in the middle of the ball, or the ball of dough, stretch it out. And don't worry about it breaking, because the dough, because of when it rises, it creates this gluten which makes it stretchy. And so it won't tear. You can just form them like that. All right, number 8. This is our small one, but that's okay. Poke a hole in the middle, stretch it out, and put it down. And now we have our 8 bagels on our sheet. Now, you should have a fry pan like this, or a baking pan, and you can either have a silicone mat, which I have here, and if you don't have one, you should buy one. They're great. If you use parchment paper or nothing at all, put a little oil on it so they won't stick, but on the silicone, you don't have to do that. So all we're going to do is we're going to take the peppy towel, and we're going to cover them for 15 minutes. Now, in the meantime, you want to preheat your oven to 425 degrees, because once these are done taking their nap, things happen pretty quickly, and you want to heat up the water in the pot to a boil. When we come back in 15 minutes, the water will be boiling, the oven will be hot, and we're going to be ready to go down the final stretch. All right, the bagels have had their nap, and now, girls, what's the next step?
Giving the bagels a bath.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our little peppy towel off, and there are our bagels that have been resting for 10 or 15 minutes. Now we're going to go over to the stove. Okay, we're over at the stove now, and we're going to give the bagels a bath. And we have our water at a pretty rapid boil, so we're going to turn it down, because we don't want to boil these things. We just want to give them a bath in kind of a light rolling boil. Okay, in order to do this, you're going to need a slotted spoon of some kind. So you can have one of these fancy, they call these spiders, but if you don't have one of those, just a regular old slotted spatula will do, but it has to have slots so that when you take things out of the bagels out of the water can drip off. And so what we're going to do, you can do this initially with your hands. There's room in the pot for about 3 bagels. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick up a bagel and drop it in the water, and I'm going to do that. I'll put 3 in. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our timer, and we're going to have 1 minute per side. And so I'm going to start the timer for 1 minute. And we'll go through this for like 1 cycle, and then I'll finish it and we'll come back. Okay, we're down to about our last 10 seconds on the first side. And as soon as we get there, I'm going to flip them over. All right, we're coming down to the final 8 seconds here of the first batch of bagels. And so as soon as it rings, I'll take them out and put them back on the tray. There we go. So this is why you need a slotted instrument of some kind. You want to take them out and let the water drip, and then just put them back on the baking tray. Number 3. See, they've grown in size. Nice bagels. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that same process for the remaining bagels, and when I'm done, we'll come back. Okay. The last 2 bagels are done with their bath, so we'll take them out and put them on the baking rack, baking tray here. And now we'll be ready for the last phase, which is, girls, what's our last phase?
Baking the bagels.
Baking the bagels, very good. Now, there's something you need to do to bagels to give them their brown, beautiful exterior, and that is to give them a wash. We've given them a bath, now a wash. And what you're going to do is take an egg with a couple tablespoons of water and mix it up, get a brush, and we're going to brush all of our bagels with egg wash. And you don't have to be super careful, just kind of get them nice and lathered up with the egg wash here. And this is going to do 2 things. It's going to give them that nice brown exterior, and it's also going to help whatever toppings you put on to stick really well. Now, in our case, we're just going to use salt, but you can use poppy seeds, you can use sesame seeds, you can do that everything bagel mixture that people have, whatever you want, whatever you like on your bagels. So there we have the wash, and now I'm just going to put some salt on them, because that's what we like. Just do that, and we'll be ready to put them in the oven. And earlier I said we preheated the oven to 425 degrees, which it is, and we're going to put them in for 20 minutes. And so in they go for 20 minutes, and when they're done, we'll be back and we'll show you the final product. All right, our 20 minutes are up. Let's see what we got. All right, look at those. Put those up here on the stove. Now they're out. What you want to do is, fairly quickly transfer them to a dry, cooling rack like this. And, there's only one thing left to do. Girls, what do we do now?
Tasting the bagels.
Come on over here. We'll taste ours later. They're a little warm now, but that's the next logical step. So I hope you give this a try. I think you'll have a good time doing it, and I think you'll be pleased with the results. I want to thank my lovely assistants, my daughters Jamie and Janessa, and my lovely wife Cheryl is behind the camera. So thanks so much. Let me know how they turn out.